And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to a Best Phone Plans live stream. Dennis and I are here. Dennis, I feel like we got to start off. How are you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal as always. It feels great to be doing a live stream. I feel like it's been too long since we've done one for everybody here, and I can't wait to see all the incredible people that watch our show living it up in the chat. In fact, I already see one of our very loyal fans, Debo Bop. Great to see you, my friend. If you want to talk to Stetson and I about 5G, you should know we do the annual once a month conversations on the Discord for Patreon members. So feel free to talk to
Yeah,
us.
we've been doing that. We
Yeah.
might do a live stream for Discord members, or you're also welcome to call the Best Phone Plans phone number, and we'll answer your question as a voicemail on the next podcast episode or one soon after. We've recorded so much stuff at this point. It's kind of exciting. And I want to welcome Progmusian here. Dennis, where you been? We got Michael in the house. Big Term Tech. Thank you for joining here. Really appreciate it. And yeah, today I think we're kind of answering the question, is 5G worth it in 2022? Verizon just launched C-band. AT&T launched C-band. Dennis, I know you've been out doing some really awesome testing, so I'm excited to hear what your experience has been like, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of this here. And also, of course, answer questions from all of you. We've got RFK Tech, welcome. We've got James. We've got Debo Bob already coming in with a hot take about 5G ultra wideband. Woof. I'm not sure if we're ready for that kind of spice, Debo Pop. But yeah, Dennis, where do you want to start? I feel like maybe we can do a quick recap. What is C-band? And then I just honestly want to hear what your experience has been like. So maybe we start there.
Yeah, so just to kind of steer the ship or to point it in a direction, basically, we're going to be talking about my experience so far because I've had the opportunity to drive now over 300 miles across western Pennsylvania within
Oh
Pittsburgh.
my gosh,
Uh,
Dennis.
So I've done a lot of phenomenal testing, but the reason why this idea has cropped up is because we finally gotten in one of the last reports from one of the big third-party testers that does network testing, which is root metrics. So I really want to just kind of rehash a little bit of what we talked about, especially now that I've gotten this extra time to just kind of talk about the state of affairs, talk about what root metrics saw, talk about your experience, Stetson, and we'll focus on that. But to answer your question really quickly, what is C-band? C-band is the mid-band spectrum, the Goldilocks spectrum, as our good friend Sasha would call it, that Verizon and AT&T got in one of the more recent auctions. It was also the one that many of you probably saw in the mainstream news or heard me and Stetson or even Sneed talk about because of the whole debacle with the FAA. But it's live. It's been deployed by Verizon in a fair amount of markets, and it has been adding some beautiful capacity. In my testing, I've been averaging roughly about 500 megabits per second on the down and 50 megabits per second on the
Hot
up.
diggity. That is spectacular. But yeah, this is just this is your RF frequency bands here. Anything low band is kind of in this area, 1 gigahertz to 2 gigahertz, even lower than that, honestly. T-Mobile's got something 600 megahertz, 850 megahertz. Mid band, this is where C-band lives. We've got band 41. This is the stuff T-Mobile's using. We've got best of band 77 here. This is C-band. I think it's 3.45 gigahertz, if I'm correct. It looks like it goes all the way up to 4 gigahertz, and it has some interference issues with the FAA, and then millimeter wave is up top. So that's what we got. Dennis, you've been driving 300 miles testing this stuff out. What has been your testing methodology? What phones can connect to C-band, and where can we find it?
Yeah, so right now, the phones that are able to connect to C-band are the iPhone 13. I believe the iPhone 12s as well now. They got the software update. The Galaxy S21, and that's about it. Pixel still can't do it.
Pretty limited. Unfortunately, our pals over at, I don't know if it's Google or Verizon, they still haven't updated the Pixel 6. We still haven't gotten it yet.
Well, the funny thing is about the Pixel is it can connect with AT&T, but AT&T is only available in like 8 places.
Yeah. So this is the map. Where can you find it? I'm just going to add this right now so we can take a look. You can go to the Verizon website and check this out, and I'll just throw it in the chat right now if you're like curious. Basically, Verizon is branding their C-band spectrum as 5G ultra wideband, and we already had some people in the chat kind of commenting on this. And I'll zoom in here. It's this dark red, and the closest one to me is I think Kansas City or I think Las Vegas. But you go in, you can see it. All right, looks like C-band is deployed in Kansas City, and if you have a compatible phone, you're in hopefully one of these areas. You should connect. We have heard reports that these maps that looks like were made from someone who was like 4 going at it in Microsoft Paint aren't the most accurate, and it's more of a general idea of where you can expect to see C-band coverage, and it is kind of up to you to try and find it. And the rest of this is all LTE, but it's in a surprising number of markets. I think it was awesome to see Verizon light it up and covering 90, I think actually 95 or 100 million people right now. It's like they did it. So that's where it is. And if you have a newer phone, you should be able to connect.
So Stetson, while we're talking, check your Discord for a link that I sent you, and also check the private chat in StreamYard real quick if you want to just check some of your stuff.
Sure.
But
does that mean I sound horrible?
No, it's just doing that thing. But while he's doing that, I want to address some of the beautiful comments that we have coming in. We have 22 beautiful eyeballs watching us, and these comments deserve to be addressed. RFK, my man, always great to see you. Thank you for definitely making a post like that. We always appreciate it. Progamusian, I hope to see you back, hopefully, while we're on the stream. Hopefully work's going good for you. I haven't been anywhere. I've actually been quite present in space, and among other things. Salvador, good to see you, man. I'm glad you could make it. Glad to see you're getting impressive speeds from T-Mobile over at your house in New York City. Albert Heasy, you've always considered band 66 and band 2 to be mid-band, not low-band. While AWS does offer decent capacity, it's not, I don't think it falls in the mid-band category based off definition. But, you know, I could see why you would think that. RFK Tech came in with some clarification. I guess it is. Well,
all right. Is this better?
It sounds good for right now.
If my mic is in and out, I apologize. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you're good. So Candy asked us a question. They asked, is Verizon's C-band faster than T-Mobile's ultra capacity network? That is a hard question to answer because ultimately, it depends. So
that's the worst. But why does it depend? What factors depend and influence whether or not Verizon C-band is faster than T-Mobile, or if T-Mobile's faster than Verizon?
So first, I just want to get right out the way. C-band, which is, I believe, from 3.7 gigahertz to 4.2 gigahertz. Am I correct?
3.7 to 3.98.
3.98. Well, that's what's available right now to Verizon at the moment. But it will be to the amount that I mentioned. But anyway.
Yeah, 3.7 to 4.2.
Okay, cool. So C-band, which the whole spectrum block is from 3.7 to 4.2, basically is going to have very much identical performance to basically 2.5 gigahertz, which is what T-Mobile's N41 uses. So the actual spectrum themselves, relatively speaking, are going to be performing, relatively speaking, about the same. The real question now comes down to execution. Right now, Verizon only has 60 megahertz of that C-band to utilize. However, for a lot of Verizon sites, they've been actually adding additional spectrum for your phone to connect to through their CBRS, as well as carrier aggregating with existing licenses that they had, such as their Band 2, their Band 66, their Band 5, and their Band 13. So they've have other spectrums that they can carry aggregate to try to amplify that performance. Basically creating nice, wide, fast highways for you. And Verizon also has been doing lots of great backhaul. T-Mobile, they have more.
That's what I was thinking, backhaul.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's all about wide channels, right? T-Mobile, though, T-Mobile actually has more spectrum available to them, and they've been, for the most part, doing It seems like at this point, 80 megahertz on their N41 sites pretty consistently, with a lot of them being upgraded to 100, even some being upgraded past that. But their big problem, which is why I say it depends, is that not all of their sites are getting consistently upgraded backhaul. I would say a good portion of their sites are limited by the fact that they are limited by gigabit backhaul, which means that no matter how much spectrum T-Mobile throws on that site, you can never see past the gigabit speeds. And realistically speaking, at least in my testing, good case scenario for T-Mobile is somewhere around 600 to 700 megabits per second. I would say that's pretty fair, good case scenario. And more realistically speaking, I'm seeing more around 300 to 400. With Verizon.
Well, I just want to touch in about the carrier aggregation with C-band, with T-Mobile and their mid-band. They're aggregating a total of 160 megahertz in certain parts of the U.S. So they have the spectrum, Dennis, as you're mentioning. Like, it's not an issue of spectrum and wide channel width. It really is an issue of, first of all, device support. You got to support 5G carrier aggregation, and also the backhaul. The tower site that is broadcasting the frequencies needs to have that 10 gigabit, even more backhaul connection in order to provide your device with the speeds that you would want to get.
Yeah, so going back to sort of what I'm saying. So with Verizon, they have less spectrum, but they have more consistency with the backhaul and averaging, like I said, around 500 meg-ish. Worst case scenario around 300, and best case scenario I've seen about 600. So Verizon's been able to get very similar performance with actually less spectrum overall than what T-Mobile can put on air, and that just comes down to backhaul and to some extent as well, you could argue density. They have a lot more traffic being offloaded off the macros and onto the small cells. It's not here in Pittsburgh, unfortunately, for T-Mobile.
Not in Pittsburgh. But that's interesting. Yeah, so you're driving around. And how are you testing this? Were you iPhone 13, just kind of driving around, running recurring specs? Or
Great question. So I have a Galaxy S21 Ultra that I have been using for Verizon testing, and I've been using the Los Verizon line from Los Mobile for that. For T-Mobile, I was using the Los Magenta Max. So both of these are the absolute highest priority that anybody can realistically have access to, unless you're like someone like Sasha, to give both networks the best case scenario. And the Los Magenta Max line was on the S20 Plus. Now I also have an iPhone 13 Pro Max. As you know, that's my daily driver for T-Mobile. I was doing speed tests on that as well, just to see what iPhone performance looked like versus Android. Same thing with Verizon. So that's also on here.
So you had them kind of swapping back and forth, iPhone on Verizon and also Galaxy S21 Ultra on Verizon.
And I also had an iPhone 12 Pro Max as well, just dedicated to T-Mobile as well, and that was using a typical consumer Magenta Max line. So
Sweet.
those were the devices that were being used. Basically, focusing on Pittsburgh specifically, and not necessarily focusing on the nation here, in Pittsburgh, this is what the short breakdown of my testing looks like. Verizon was looking very good where C-band was available. It made a really big difference for them when it came to actual speed and performance. Ping times were, generally speaking, sub 20 milliseconds, usually hovering around 14 milliseconds. I've seen as low as 10. That was the ping. Jitter was pretty decent. Like I said, download speeds were generally 500. Upload speeds were generally 50. There were certain sites that did better than that. I've seen as high as like 650 on the down and like 110 on the up. There's actually a site that's in a place called Burgettstown, Pennsylvania, which is a small town of 1,000 people where they put that C-band up, and that's where I saw that crazy fast speed test, believe it or not.
That's awesome.
You could feel free to show it on the Verizon coverage map if you like. You could just see how far away it is from Pittsburgh. It's a good drive. But
wow.
So that was one thing. And also on that note, ironically enough, with Verizon C-band, I was seeing it more readily available the further I got away from the city of Pittsburgh, ironically enough. Now, with T-Mobile's Ultra Capacity, it's the opposite. T-Mobile's Ultra Capacity, I was seeing more when I was in the city of Pittsburgh, and that has tended to be where it performed the best. As you got further away from the city into the suburbs, that is where T-Mobile's performance got significantly worse. There were sites that were recently upgraded that were performing pretty horrendously. I don't want to really rag on T-Mobile at the moment, but they were not performing very good.
Pittsburgh needs some love. That's what it needs.
There were other sites, though, where I was happy to see that T-Mobile had fixed some of their issues, and I was starting to see maybe more sites where I could get 700 meg, where maybe they were only getting like 200 before, or maybe they were getting only like 25. Like, they really fixed it up and made it nice. One other thing worth noting with T-Mobile in my market, and we had a pretty bad snowstorm recently, so there was a power outage, but T-Mobile actually added backup power, which is actually fixes one of the biggest gripes I have for them from a reliability standpoint. So very much kudos approved to T-Mobile for that. Lastly, there's AT&T. AT&T, unfortunately, I know people are fine to disagree with me, but AT&T far and away is still the clear winner in the Pittsburgh market because they have both very robust capacity. They are the only so they have robust capacity and they have great coverage. Focusing on the capacity for a moment, they are the only carrier within Pittsburgh that actually has small cell sites within the city itself. Verizon has small cells that they've been adding through Crown Castle on the suburbs of Pittsburgh, but not in the inner city. In the inner city, Verizon uses rooftop sites. That's where they have some of their millimeter wave deployed. That's where they have some of their CBRS deployed. But they don't have small cells in the traditional sense like the ones you would see on top of like a light pole type of deal. Only AT&T does. T-Mobile has a small cell that I was able to spot. It was a band 66 only one, but it was like one. That was the only one I saw. So it wasn't nothing meaningful. Everything within Pittsburgh's kind of macros, which means there's lots of dead spots for T-Mobile, or at the very least spots where the signal is weak enough that even if you are connected to N41, because your SINAR levels are just not in the range that it needs to be at, the performance just isn't, you're not gaining any real performance. And also, when it comes to the rural parts, like the places where I was talking about, like going out to Burgettstown, for example, there are a lot of gaps in T-Mobile's coverage just due to the lack of that tower spacing and density. So there was places where T-Mobile just didn't have coverage at all still, which it's to be expected in rural places. I mean, I get it. Like, I'm not that upset about it, but like, it was a shame because I know that in some of those places, Sprint used to have coverage, and it's clear that they took away those Sprint sites and didn't replace it with an alternative.
Yeah, that is a bummer. So how would you rank? It sounds like does AT&T have C-band spectrum deployed in Pittsburgh right now?
AT&T does not have C-band deployed. They have their NSA 5G where they have allocated a dedicated 10 megahertz of their, I want to say it's band. I'm about to say band 5, but I'm pretty sure I'm wrong. Is it band 5?
Is it 66?
No, it's not 66. It's
whatever
whatever they were using on their HSPA Plus that they decommissioned. I want to say that's band 5, or it might have been band 2.
Okay.
It is N5. Thank you, Chime.
Yeah, Chime. Thank you. Yeah, so even without C-band spectrum, it sounds like AT&T is winning the Pittsburgh market thanks to their dense cell network and their carrier aggregation with their current LTE spectrum. Is that right?
Yeah, like to give you some perspective, AT&T. So remember how I said Verizon C-band was able to average about 500 by 50? AT&T is able to do that on their LTE already. They were able to get 500 on the down and actually higher than 50 on the up. Now, I'm not saying that's the average for AT&T. If I'm being more realistic and more conservative, I would say on average you could probably expect about 200 meg consistently on AT&T regardless of where you go by, like, say, 25. But the point being is that is ubiquitous. And remember, that is for all of their network in Pittsburgh, because when you're not on C-band with Verizon, now you're talking about like averaging like 50 by like 10 or something like that, right? So
how do you rank the networks? It sounds like AT&T is one. Where
AT&T
do you put...
1, I would put AT&T 1, Verizon 2, T-Mobile 3rd. And the reason why Verizon is sitting comfortably in second is because in the areas where they do have C-band, it is just as fast or sometimes faster than T-Mobile from a capacity standpoint, which is great. And even in the places where they don't have it, at least they have bars on phone. If you see bars on phone, you can at least expect it to do basic stuff. And by that I mean You're going to get a great audio call, like voice call. I know that seems old school, but I do that. You're going to have the ability to send a text. You're going to have the ability to use Google Maps navigation. You're going to have the ability to play Spotify, talk on Twitter Spaces. There are lots of places where T-Mobile has great bars on phone, but something as basic as a phone call just does not work due to incredibly high packet loss. I posted this on the Twitter. You might have saw it. But there was a site. I was sitting in a location. It was honestly not great for Verizon or AT&T at that specific location. I was right in front of the Verizon site, and I gave them flack for that. But T-Mobile had literally, I want to say it was like 80% packet loss, and they were getting like less than a meg worth of download and like almost nothing on the upload. Wow. So that's bars on a phone, but that is unusable from T-Mobile, and that's unacceptable. And that site actually, Stetson, had bonded T1 lines. So in theory, it can get a maximum of 3 megabits per second. And for some reason, T-Mobile thought it'd be a great idea to put N41 on that site, ultra capacity, but leave bonded T1 lines. That's unexcusable. They've come a long way by adding backup power, and they've improved tremendously since I've last spoke on them. Like I said, that backup power is a really big thing for me because that's a big enhancement for them, because it used to be if the power went out, T-Mobile went with it. So the fact that they did that is great, but they have a long way to go if they want to claim market dominance within T-Mobile. All right, within Pittsburgh.
My follow-up question to that, do you think it's worth getting a 5G phone in Pittsburgh? If you're in the Pittsburgh market, should you upgrade to a 5G phone?
With which carrier? Or just in general?
That's the question, is kind of in general, like, is it worth it? Does it depend on the network? I'd be curious as well.
Depends on the network. For Verizon, yes. Verizon has millimeter wave downtown on Forbes Ave and out in front of Duquesne College. And these are places where Verizon honestly would struggle if you were connecting on LTE, but that ultra wideband makes a huge difference. Excuse me. Their millimeter wave specifically makes a huge difference. And in those suburban areas, because a lot of those suburbs have like shopping plazas, for example, like Bethel Park Mall, Verizon's ultra wideband makes a very big difference in those areas. So for Verizon, definitely a thumbs up, yes. For T-Mobile, it would be foolish of me to say no, because for T-Mobile, there is a lot of places where Band 71 is filling in coverage gaps where T-Mobile didn't have service, even with Band 12 before. And ultra capacity N41, where it is working well, it's phenomenal. It truly is. So there's no reason not to get a 5G phone on T-Mobile, especially too because you're not always going to be in Pittsburgh. There's lots of places where T-Mobile has great N41, like in your market at Longmont, and it's absolutely worth it. And then for AT&T, it's hard for me to say. AT&T doesn't really have a 5G network. However, AT&T out of all the carriers is also one of them that does 5-way carrier aggregation, and I know there's a lot of older LTE phones that don't actually support 5-way carrier aggregation, or they might be missing things like Band 14, which they got from the FirstNet deal, or other things like that. So if you're going to buy a phone on them, at the very least, I'd recommend that it's one that has the absolute latest iteration of LTE, so you're getting that full 5-way carrier aggregation, because that's where their bandwidth really comes from. And I would still argue that it's worth getting a 5G phone overall, just because C-band is around the corner for AT&T's deployment as well. I'm sure it's only maybe a year or 2 years out max. They'll have it. And also, of course, there's that sweet Andromeda spectrum that they got as well that we know will be going up.
Yeah, so that ties in nicely. We had a question about Andromeda. I think we'll circle back to that. Let's do 3 questions now. First one kind of dovetails nicely into what you were talking about in your Pittsburgh market, Dennis. This comes from MC USA. Thank you so much for watching and for the question and for hitting that like button. Little plug there. Hey guys, notice any improvements with T-Mobile in the last few weeks? They are actually improving backhaul due to C-band, or are they actually improving backhaul due to C-band competition? I'm seeing better connectivity and faster speeds more often.
Yeah, so I mean, the TLDR is I am seeing some improvements with T-Mobile. They're doing things that I don't want to turn this into me ragging on any particular carrier show. I want to try to stay calm and collected. But I will just say that T-Mobile is doing things that make me scratch my head a little bit in my market, which I find very unfortunate because I would love it if T-Mobile would achieve AT&T levels of consistency within my market. That would be a fantastic thing. But to answer your question, I have noticed some minor improvements. And Stetson, you have exceptional T-Mobile. Talk more about your market of Longmont, because that is the true T-Mobile dream story right there.
So what happened in Longmont is Longmont has something called municipal fiber, which is where the town or the city itself offers a gigabit fiber internet option to its residents. Now, the benefit of this is they routed fiber optic cable all throughout the town, and T-Mobile is now able to use and pay the city of Longmont for backhaul to its tower sites. This is important because now you can have the available capacity for N41, T-Mobile's mid-band 5G spectrum. And in Longmont, they were just like, yep, like flip the switch on. They put it on every single tower site I think they have here. I went driving around one day to try and find T-Mobile low-band 5G, and I actually couldn't find it. So coverage is blanketed. It's like, it sounds like AT&T in Pittsburgh, ubiquitous coverage. That's how I would describe T-Mobile in Longmont right now, where you really are connected to ultra capacity pretty much everywhere you go. And it's been phenomenal from my experience. I ran one while we were talking. I got 337 down. Not the peak, but certainly compared to what T-Mobile was at before, it's been a huge upgrade in this market. And it also makes T-Mobile home internet a possible option to consider for some people. But yeah, it's been great. I've been enjoying it. And it really does show like what T-Mobile is capable of. And it's just about them putting their mind to it and executing on that vision of creating an awesome network experience in a certain market.
So Stetson, since we're talking about this, I just want to mention something funny. I think you'll get a good chuckle out of it real quick. I mapped the crap out of Cell Mapper while obviously doing these drives, okay?
Yeah.
So the cell site that is closest to my house, take a guess where T-Mobile decided to point it.
Away from your house.
Yes, specifically, they pointed it towards the Pittsburgh International Airport. So it's providing coverage towards the airport. And then the site that I connect to most frequently, which is the one that also has the N41 on it, which is by the airport, is the one that's pointing towards my house.
So it's like backwards. It's like
yes.
tower here, pointing that way, and then
pointless interference. Pointless interference, yes.
Oh, well. All right, we have another question from Candy Wide. Why isn't AT&T deploying any C-band even though they spent the most money? Candy, this is a great question, and it was answered quite well in actually our previous bonus episode with Sasha Segan from PC Mag. Dennis, you want to give the TLDR here of why AT&T hasn't been rolling out C-band, why they're only in 8 markets right now?
Yeah, the TLDR is that AT&T needed to wait essentially for equipment to be able to deploy both their C-band spectrum as well as their Andromeda spectrum at the same time. AT&T really likes to follow up on that one-touch policy of theirs, and they decided that was the most economical thing. And I think Sasha agreed with me on this, but I think you agree with me on this as too, is that AT&T already has a legendary LTE network. So out of all the carriers, for them, there's not as much of a pressing rush at the moment.
I would say the rush is caused by the marketing departments of the other carriers. T-Mobile obviously pushing 5G as much as possible. Verizon is now trying to get on that bandwagon now that C-band is here. AT&T doesn't really need to market 5G because they have a great network. I guess a potential problem is to a broader general public. They may perceive AT&T as falling behind if they don't have 5G, but the truth is the network is still outstanding and still gets the job done.
Hey,
so
but Stetson, they got 5GE.
I don't want to talk about 5G. It is
good. And they do have an icon. So, I mean, they have the real 5G icon, so it's whatever. Look, point is AT&T will probably have, AT&T is not just going to sit on that spectrum. They're going to deploy it at some point. It might be a year from now, but
they're going to do it. It's going to be slow and methodical, but it's going to be done well, and it will.
Or we hope it'll be done well.
A lot. Yeah, we hope it'll be done well. Verizon, for what it's worth, also has a one-touch policy. They just were able to buy the equipment they needed earlier, and because they don't have the Andromeda spectrum.
Yeah, more importantly, Verizon went all in on C-band. They have deep channels. AT&T has so many different frequencies that they need to deploy. They had to wait, basically.
Yeah. All right, one more question from our friend Debo Pop, Stetson and Dennis. What are your thoughts on the S22 Ultra? Do you believe the X65 will be the modem to supercharge 5G?
Well, Debo Bop, great question. I want to say we actually did a recording earlier today talking about the best ways to get the phone and our thoughts a little bit. That should be up tomorrow, I believe. But the TLDR short version of answering your question is I don't think the X65 is going to be doing anything remarkable at the present time because no carriers currently have standalone cores truly deployed. And that's going to be where the X65 really shines. And also specifically as well, the only carrier that's actually doing anything meaningful to really take advantage of all the crazy tech that's in the X65 is Verizon with millimeter wave and C-band. T-Mobile is currently just carrier aggregating their mid-band with their low-band spectrum, which was already something that was possible on the X60 chipset.
Yeah, I think bottom line here, Devo Pop, is that it's going to be a great 5G chip. It's not going to be a game changer. It might be a year or so before we see the technology that makes it even better. But I mean, even with the speeds we're getting on our iPhone 12s or Galaxy S20s, it's still great. You know, like you're going to be able to use your phone as you want. And it's not really, I don't think people would really notice from a day-to-day perspective.
I think the bigger game changer was the X60 over the X55 because it was the first one to have an integrated 5G modem, which enhanced battery improvements, but also more importantly, the carrier aggregation of that low band with mid band because of the range enhancements. That's a bigger deal than the added capacity of being able to say carrier aggregate even more millimeter wave spectrum when millimeter wave's already getting like 4 to 5 gigabits per second. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like we don't really need to add all of that together.
At least so not this second.
Yeah. Oh, here's a question. Or Dennis, did you have anything you wanted to continue on for this episode? I was kind of pausing to do some questions, but
no, that's the beautiful thing about live streams. Let's answer the questions, and then of course I sent you that link that I do want to show up the report on because I feel like it's worth talking about. But we can save it. What's the question?
All right, so this is from Gaboya at Gebson. Hey guys, I wanted to see if I should go with T-Mobile Magenta Max or Verizon Get More or AT&T Unlimited Elite.
Man, so many choices. I'll go real quick, and then I'll let you go, Stetson. So here's the deal. First, and this is the most important thing, you need to figure out what network you want to use. Because point of the matter is, if there's no coverage in the places that matter to you, then it doesn't matter how good that plan is. So first, figure out what network you want to use. You could do that in a couple of ways. You could talk to people, or you could take advantage of Visible's like free eSIM trial, and they also have the promo they have going on where it's like $11 a month for the first 2 months to test out Verizon. Just
you could do Visible and Verizon. US Mobile does eSIM, and I did a full activation guide video on that too. If you have a compatible, but they don't have 5G, so it's probably not. Yeah, do Visible, test it out. And Mint Mobile has a free trial on T-Mobile if you're interested in testing them out.
Now, just be mindful that with these carriers, they are deprioed, so keep that in mind, which is why I would first just mainly do that just to see if you're getting bars on phone type of deal, and then maybe talk to people as well in your area to figure it out. Also rely on third-party sites like what Stetson is showing, such as RootMetrics, CellMapper, and things like that to see if there's any verified coverage in the places that matter to you.
This is RootMetrics. It's crowdsourced data. I've contributed to this. You go up to the top here. You can't really see it, but you pick your network. You go to Verizon. You go to T-Mobile. You can see T-Mobile 5G everywhere, but what's the quality of that 5G? Verizon a little bit more city specific. AT&T also pretty broad, but again, like what's the quality of that 5G? You can do fastest speeds found as well. This is more specific data, and you can see it's less mapped out. But yeah, I would check out RootMetrics, see what network is going to be good in your area, ask some friends, test them out, and then based on the network, pick the plan. You can't really go wrong with any plan. I personally like Verizon Get More Unlimited. I think it's got some great perks included. Dennis, do you have a plan preference at this point?
Yeah, so there was actually two other things I'd consider, or the next thing I just wanted to say real quick. The second thing I would consider outside of looking at the actual coverage in the network that you want is to determine if you have any additional discounts that might apply. Like, I don't know if you, for example, live in an area where AT&T U-verse fiber is available, or if you're a customer of their fiber product, but you do get a discount with AT&T on that. You get a discount for ARP. Essentially, if you have a heartbeat, you can get a discount with AT&T, which actually brings the pricing down on Elite, making it a much better value option. And as many people know on this show, I'm a big proponent of AT&T Elite. I love the fact that they give you the uncapped video. That's a big thing to me, and I enjoy HBO Max as far as the streaming perks go over some of the other offerings.
Yeah. I'll boost Verizon a little bit. I like they give you can get Verizon 5G home internet, $25 a month. I think that's a sweet deal. 50% off a tablet line if you wanted to add that. So it's like $10 a month for unlimited tablet data. You get your Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus. I love Disney Plus. I think it's a great subscription service. And cherry on top, you're getting your Apple Music subscription. So I think value add is there for me. But again, bottom line, forget perks, forget benefits. What network has the best coverage in your area? Go from there.
Yeah. AT&T would be the one I recommend, and then followed up by Verizon if you're going to bundle with Verizon.
All right, Dennis, I think with that said, we're talking about coverage. Maybe it's time we talk about the latest report that just came out. This is actually from RootMetrics themselves, and it's their State of the Union report. Let's see if I can. I'm actually going to hide that so I can pull up the actual PDF. There we go. Just wanted to make sure we had it. Boom. So, Dennis, we were looking at reports from Ucla and from OpenSignal recently. And what did those reports say? What would be your TLDR for anyone who hasn't seen the stream yet?
Basically, T-Mobile wins, T-Mobile wins, T-Mobile wins.
And yep, I would agree with that. T-Mobile won, and then they did some more winning, and then they won. So T-Mobile's winning. So obviously, we're going to see T-Mobile win here as well. So let's just dive right in, and we can immediately see. Yeah. Oh, Dennis, that's kind of. Did they did they miscolor this or dude? T-Mobile's blank, man. They didn't win anything. What happened? So yeah, let's dive into the Root Award report for the second half of 2021 and what went down.
All right, go ahead and take the lead.
Yeah, I think so. What is RootMetrics measuring? They've got overall reliability, accessibility, speed, data, call, and text, which I think is a great encompassing amount of information. I'm just going to pop this up in size. Overall, what happened? AT&T moved up to tie with Verizon. They're actually 0.1 ahead of Verizon. Reliability, Verizon dropped down, AT&T moved up. Again, this is very small differences here. Accessibility, AT&T dropped down, T-Mobile dropped up. Speed, AT&T in the lead. I'm kind of surprised by that. Data, AT&T, call, AT&T, Verizon, text, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile kind of bottoming it out here with speed, data, call, and text. So yeah, that's what we're looking at for results. I think the summary here is AT&T speeds. Yeah, where do you want to start? Mobile performance? There's so much. It's so good.
Yeah, so first, just looking at the actual, like, you were on a screen where it actually shows the ranking. Yeah, right there. We were talking about the small differences, but there's one clear thing I want to show here is that T-Mobile for most of the categories is a big amount behind. Like, this lines more up with what my experience is with T-Mobile more accurately. But not ragging on that. If we go down, we can look at things such as the mobile performance in different areas overall and see the tally in the 50 states. AT&T took the W basically in 494 of the markets. Verizon took the tally in 756, and T-Mobile came away with 256 awards total, respectively. It's below that metro area performance.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see that Verizon is still kind of holding that crown despite everything that's happened. And I think T-Mobile actually did get more market take-homes than they did previously, if memory serves me. So that's
I think they've been improving. It's just AT&T and Verizon did really well as well. I think let's just start with the high-level summary up here too. Key takeaways: AT&T impresses in state and national testing. In a shift from our previous report, AT&T won or shared the most United States Root Score awards of any carrier for the first time. AT&T doubled its total of U.S. Root Score awards from 3 to 6, and that was in the first half of 2021, while edging past Verizon to take home the most state root score awards of any carrier. AT&T also maintained its reputation for delivering good speeds, great reliability, and solid 5G results in major cities. Not really either of Dennis's city or my city. Like AT&T 5G is scarce to be found.
No,
T-Mobile,
5G
what are they doing?
5G is here.
You have it?
It's just not C-band.
Got it. T-Mobile speeds up in major cities and beyond. Not only was T-Mobile the only carrier to deliver a median download speed above 100 megabits per second in our metro area testing, it hit that mark in nearly 50 cities while also delivering outstanding 5G availability and speed results. T-Mobile also showed improvement in our state and national testing, delivering easily the fastest median download speeds across the entirety of our U.S. testing. So T-Mobile's there and it's fast, but I think when you look at the networks as a whole, combining 4G and 5G, that's where AT&T and Verizon continue to be very strong. And Verizon, they deliver outstanding results across the board. Verizon's performance was excellent in the second half of 2021, earning 4 U.S. root score awards, posting great results in state testing, and taking home by far the most Metro root score awards of any carrier. Verizon delivered fast speeds and superb reliability in major metros. Verizon also registered excellent 5G reliability while showing improved 5G availability and speeds in many cities across the country. So they're getting better. Networks are getting better, which is outstanding. And yeah, we kind of touched on the 50 states and
So
how they're
Stetson,
testing it.
before you scroll down any further, I want to ask you a question. Which city do you believe had the fastest median download speed for AT&T?
Wow. Is it going to be Pittsburgh?
You should know
Is it
that because I think I
Pittsburgh?
told you that. Yeah. Pittsburgh, PA had the fastest median download speed for AT&T.
Wow. This puts a rock hard number on Dennis's preaching of AT&T. Like the reason Dennis says AT&T is good because in Pittsburgh, it's the best. There you
Literally. And their
Yeah.
slowest was actually out in Texas. McAllen, Texas was their slowest.
Wow.
Before you scroll down, who do you think had the fastest median download speed? What city had the fastest median download speed for T-Mobile, do you think?
I would hope Washington.
Uh,
Is it Colorado?
Fayetteville, North Carolina.
How was I supposed to know that? That's outstanding, though. 340.5 megabits per second. So,
And then lastly, continuing this fun question, who do you think had the fastest median download speeds for Verizon?
is it a city in New Jersey? Can I get the state? New Jersey.
The state is MI.
Michigan. Wow.
You're just going to look. Okay.
Lansing, yeah. McAllen, Texas. I wouldn't have known that. Outstanding. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
impressive.
so
I
here's
think,
a
look,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, my takeaway right now, I think T-Mobile, at the end of 2021, we have to remember, this is for last year, I think it was clear T-Mobile had the most impressive 5G network. But when we look at the networks as a whole, LTE and 5G, it's clear AT&T and Verizon are just strong. They have strong networks total. So,
Yeah, I was going to ask as a quick takeaway here, now that we've gotten all the updated like reports in the various different firms that do this type of thing, what are your like thoughts? Like, who do you think actually gives the more accurate representation of the state of affairs?
well, I think they're all accurate to their own degree, right? Like they're accurate to the methodology that they're using to test. What do I think might be a better reflection of average consumer use cases? In my mind, I think Root Metrics. I think they have more data points. I think they're doing a better job with their methodology. And I think, as you mentioned from your experience in Pittsburgh, like this speaks true. Whereas the other results from OpenSignal and Ucla were saying T-Mobile won in Pittsburgh. So
Not just Pittsburgh, the whole state of Pennsylvania.
They won a lot. And so I think what it comes down to for me is I think this is kind of a better representation with just taking different factors into account and how they're measuring it. Like we're not seeing a game score here because that's kind of arbitrary. They're measuring things that matter. The data speeds, your ability to connect, your calls, your texts, things like that.
Hey, so we actually got some questions coming in. they're touching on two different points, so I'm going to pick them in this order. No One Man asks, why do you think there's such a discrepancy between the result of this report and the result of the Ucla Q4 report?
I would take a guess. So we kind of have to make some guesses here. And I would say that from Ucla's report, my understanding is they were looking at median download speeds. How does Ucla get median download speeds? People are running speed tests on their app. They're seeing how fast their connection is, and they're adding that to the data pool. My guess, and I could be mistaken on this, but what I'm thinking right now is that when people are on T-Mobile, they're excited to test out the new ultra capacity 5G network, and they're going to run a lot of tests on it. And I think it was those users in areas where they were testing it out that kind of increased the number of fast speeds and therefore increased the median download speed, which is what Ucla was using. Now, I could be mistaken on that. They could have some methodology to take that into account and to kind of, account for that and make their score different. But I think, what it comes down to, I think T-Mobile customers were excited to get fast speeds. They were running a lot of speed tests. If you got slow speeds, I don't have fun running a slow speed test on the Ucla app, they probably weren't testing as much. So I think,
I think the opposite is actually true. I think that when you run a speed test, at least for me personally, I'm more likely to run a speed test when something is wrong. If my speeds aren't working, I'm going to run it when it's not working. And if I do run a speed test, I'm going to do it also because maybe I saw the shiny new icon. Those are going to be the two circumstances where I think to run a speed test. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if people got the new icon on T-Mobile, then I think they'd run a speed test. And then I guess to your other point, I think when people run speed tests on Verizon or AT&T, I think they're more likely to be outside of a fast 5G area, whereas on T-Mobile, I think people were just excited to be connected to ultra capacity and were testing it out. So, and that's my guess.
My guess is just that they were basing it off of different metrics. If I remember correctly, when we were looking at Ucla, they kept mixing up mean and median in some of their results to get the numbers. If I remember correctly, when we looked at the report, and also, I don't think Ucla actually has control testing being done by personal drivers, if I remember correctly. I think that's more of a root metrics thing where they're all going out with the same phone in guaranteed areas. Whereas, hey, you brought it up. Perfect.
Yeah. So they're looking at median download speeds for their result. Median download speeds, T-Mobile, sure. Latency, I don't know. These are all so close. Whatever. Consistency score. I think this is kind of
5 down and 1 up.
5 down and 1 up. I don't know. I think, I guess the problem, or not a problem, but something to keep in mind with Ucla is my understanding is they're crowdsourcing their information. Whereas I think Root Metrics, they strategically go to their different markets to test it out. And I think what it comes down to is, I think the data points that that Ucla might be getting could end up skewing the overall results. We're looking at maybe not a bigger picture, but we're looking at what they got from their data.
Especially when we talk about 5G as well, because 5G adoption, relatively speaking, is still in its infancy at this moment in time, right?
Yeah, it's getting there. I don't know what it would be at. I think it was maybe 30 to 35%.
It's 30%, which is it's still not a lot. So I mean, plus with Root Metrics approach, because they're going to the same spots every year, it makes it much easier to draw analogous improvements when it's the same spots.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you guys could all test out the networks in your area, and if you go to the same spots, you can measure improvements. So,
man, that site never loved you. Last time we did the stream too, it
crashed.
But anyway, hopefully we answered your question to one man. And then Michael Voorhes asks, is it worth getting AT&T if I get a 25% discount with my fiber internet, but only have LTE in my area when Verizon and T-Mobile offer 5G, including T-Mobile midband? Michael, if you're price conscientious and looking for the best value option, I would say yes. In the same way I would tell someone that it makes sense that if they're going to go with Verizon, I think it's the Get More plan or whichever one's the highest one. I would suggest they get Fios or maybe even consider the fixed wireless product if they didn't have fiber, because the bundling just makes sense from a pricing standpoint. That being said, I would actually be less interested, or in my humble opinion, I think it's less important how good the carrier is necessarily at your house. I'd be more interested to know or be looking at how performance is outside the home. Because when I'm at home, right, I got Wi-Fi calling with T-Mobile, and the only time I need T-Mobile to have coverage is if my power goes out. That's the only time. But outside of that, I'm always on Wi-Fi calling, even though T-Mobile is like honestly probably the worst performer at my house. So, you know what I'm saying?
I have two suggestions here. One, based on your initial question, I think a 25% discount on your home internet bill is pretty substantial and would likely make getting AT&T worth it overall. That said, if you're interested in getting Verizon or T-Mobile, I think you could get a lower cost cell phone plan that might end up making the discount not as substantial. And I'll just use an example here from the website. If I pick US Mobile as my current favorite option on Verizon for 5G, they get full access to C-band, ultra-wideband, things like that. If we take a look at their plans, you can see they've got an unlimited plan, $45 a month, 75 gigs. This is going to be a great option for a lot of people. And if you have a family, it drops to just $25 a month. So you're spending $100 total. And so here's what that looks like. This is with no hotspot, and this is the option with hotspot. So $100 on your cell phone plan compared to AT&T's probably going to be $160. You're saving $60 a month on that. That could be more than the 25% off of AT&T fiber. So I would consider maybe going with a smaller prepaid carrier, and that could be a great option to save money as well. T-Mobile, you could look at Mint Mobile, and that would save you money as well. They've got a $30 35 gig plan. But of course, the choice is up to you, and I would just run the numbers and see kind of what works for you. So that's what I got. Sweet. Any other questions? I actually have to get going pretty soon here, Dennis.
Okay.
Like very soon. So I could probably do like one more question. If you want to keep going, that's totally cool. But I'm gonna have to bounce.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm cool with going for a little bit. I got access to the show. Maybe I can reach out and maybe sneak on. Maybe I can sneak on someone. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, let's do one more question then. Do we have any?
See if we got one.
Yeah.
I'll plug. Yeah. Hey, thanks for like all 52 of you. Please consider clicking the like button if you've been enjoying this, and thank you for coming out and chatting with us. I always love talking with you guys. Dennis and I are gonna have a Galaxy S22 video coming out tomorrow, and I think you're really gonna like it. So make sure you're subscribed to stay tuned for that. Turn on the notification bell if you want to get push notification on your phone to let you know when that goes live. It's going to be fun. We cover everything you need to know, including the discounts and the best way to buy it. And yeah, I think Ooh, this is a good one, Dennis. Thoughts on Verizon doing 36 months?
Not a fan. Not a fan at all.
Yeah,
I think 36 months is too long. I mean, just think about it. If you did 36-month financing on, say, a iPhone 11 Pro Max, for example, right? You would have been missing out on the 12, the 13, and you'd be waiting for the 14 to finally get access to the sweet, sweet goodness known as C-band. And if that was T-Mobile, you'd be missing out on all that sweet N41 ultra capacity, which is a big game changer on your perception on both respective networks when it comes to performance and coverage.
Yeah, I mean, if you do 36 months, the upgrade feels incredible. Like you're leaping into the future, and that's something I do love. But yeah, in general, I'm not a huge fan. It makes a whole lot of sense from Verizon's perspective, though. I think devices do last longer and longer, and they're getting more and more software updates. We just saw Samsung launch 4 years of updates with their new S22 series. And so really, it's the battery. Like, how long does the battery last? If you're doing 36 months, you might have to get it replaced kind of towards that end of the cycle. But yeah, unfortunately, it does make a lot of sense because it locks customers into longer term and gives them less of an incentive to leave, and you end up paying the full cost of the phone anyway, so it doesn't really matter to them. I'm bummed, but unfortunately, it just makes a lot of good business sense. I guess I would suggest people consider financing like through Apple with Apple Card or through Samsung with Samsung's financing options. I haven't looked too much into it, but that's what
Well,
I got.
Stetson, if you need to get going, I totally understand. I can definitely
I
take care
do.
of Gabu Jiboyega,
Gaboo?
but
Okay.
before you go, do you want to tell the audience maybe some tidbits? Maybe it's about this. Maybe it's about anything you want to share.
Yeah, merch. We got merch. Shop.bestphoneplans.net. I've been updating the website to compare phone plans. Join the Patreon for extra perks and benefits. I don't know, guys. Look, subscribe. Watch the video tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. All right, I got to bounce. Dennis, take it from here. So long. Fare thee well. And I'm not going to end the broadcast, but I'm going to leave the broadcast.
All right. It's now the Dennis show. All right. So it's just me. Oh, boy. I am not used to just looking at myself. Okay. But anywho, it is just me now. So, G Boo Yega. What would I recommend for fiber internet? Well, honestly, any fiber internet is good fiber internet if there is fiber. Typically speaking, you're not going to actually have that many choices when it comes to fiber providers. So, it's hard. It's going to depend on where you live. If you have fiber, you're already doing better off than most Americans. If you're asking, like, if you're buying a house or something or trying to move somewhere and looking for a provider, AT&T has some of the fastest fiber at the moment from a privatized company. You know, I think we talked about it on the show, but they started offering their multi-gigabit fiber product, which goes up to like 5 gig for residential customers. But they got great pricing on gigabit in a lot of areas. I personally have Verizon Fios, which, knock on wood, that I last talked on the stream, but they actually sent out a maintenance truck. It was like seeing a unicorn, and fixed many of my problems that I've had, and it's been great now. So that's been fantastic. I'm of the opinion that municipal options tend to be the best, but again, those are municipal and very regional. When I was out seeing Stetson, you know, he has Nextlight out in Longmont, and honestly, it is out of this world, incredible. But fiber is great, regardless of who you go with. Let's see. Hey, Joel. You're not late. I'm still going and I'm doing well. Stetson had to go, but I'm going to keep going with the stream since we have so many awesome people kind of answering questions, talking about a myriad of things. So feel free to ask any questions and I'll do my best to answer to the best of my ability. I can get pretty nerdy and technical. And in the meantime, I'm actually trying to see if I can maybe sneak someone on here as a surprise guest. Christopher, what do you like better, iPhone or Android? You know, Christopher, that is a great question. And you know, overall, I would say I still prefer Android for certain things, really, because I'm really big on the Google ecosystem. That being said, I've made the full switch to iPhone at this point as my daily driver phone. iOS 15 fixed a lot of the issues that I had with iPhone, and the iPhone 13 Pro Max did a lot of good things too. I got tired of some of the issues that come from using Android phones, just whether it be from support from the carriers or what have you. And for me, I do use an iPhone now as a daily driver, but as an OS or overall, I do prefer Android, even though I made the switch to iOS. MCUSA, what are the chances that T-Mobile or Verizon Home Internet has a fallback internet plan that's cheaper than what they offer now? So I'm not sure how well I understand that question, but if you're asking about a fallback connection, like if the actual main product goes down, I know Verizon is actually doing that or experimenting with that, where they're actually installing fiber in areas and then giving gateways that fall back on the LTE network when Fios goes out. As far as them reducing their costs and their services, that's going to be heavily dependent on competition, and that doesn't seem to be the way things are going. Fios had raised their prices last year when we talked about it on the show. Like, they raised the price in their, at the time it was 400 by 400 from $59 to $65, and then they raised their gig from 80 to 90. So I don't know. Unless something happens that forces them to drive the cost down, I think they're going to charge as much as they can because, you know, corporations are, you know, going to do whatever they can to make the most money possible. Few seconds behind, but it's 25% off AT&T wireless. So Elite is $65 compared to $85. AT&T does only have LTE coverage, but very, very good coverage up there with Verizon. Well, then, Michael, I think the decision is clear. I think it's worth doing AT&T in that circumstance. I can't see why you wouldn't, unless there's some discount that you're able to get with Verizon or T-Mobile, respectively, that makes it make more sense. I love the AT&T Elite plan. Unlimited priority data is great. 40 gigs of hotspots, not too shabby. HBO Max, I would argue, is one of the better streaming services out there, especially now there's a new season of South Park, which is one of my favorite shows. So, yeah, man, go with it. I think it's a good option. Let's see. Feel free to ask questions. I'm just quickly texting a couple people. No one man. Has my opinion of millimeter wave changed for the better or the worse over time? Do I think Verizon focusing on it is a good strategy? So I would say my opinion of millimeter wave has changed for the better. And I do think that all the carriers should be focusing on millimeter wave because it's an important piece of the puzzle to deploying a true 5G network. The reason for that is because millimeter wave, or the frequencies that are used for millimeter wave, there's very large swaths of spectrum that could be utilized, and you're just not going to get the type of wide channels that you're getting on the millimeter wave side of things that you're going to find in the mid band, and definitely not on low band. So that capacity is going to be absolutely quintessential for keeping the networks uncongested and providing density in places where you just can't get macros deployed. I especially think it's really important if the wireless providers want to focus on providing a fixed wireless home internet solution. In my personal opinion, millimeter wave is the only option that actually provides real competition to existing technologies such as HFC networks, so cable, or fiber. It's the only thing that's comparable in any sense. To me, midband or anything sub 6 gigahertz is going to just be an inferior product in most circumstances compared to good cable, and it definitely doesn't hold a candle to fiber of any kind. So I think it's good. It has its use. I think every city ideally should have millimeter wave blanketing it, and even some suburbs. But we'll have to see what reality brings. But if we want to have true 5G, I think it's going to be a really important part of the puzzle. Debo Bop, what are my thoughts on the S22 Ultra? I think the S22 Ultra is the godsend that all of the poor, forgotten Note users that Samsung just abandoned for 2 years have been asking for and begging for. It is essentially, for all intents and purposes, the successor to the Note 20. I think it's a great phone. I think it is a worthy upgrade if you're coming from one of the older Notes and you've been holding out. And Samsung essentially stuck to the approach of if it wasn't broke, it didn't fix it. They kind of had another S here, so much like what iPhone would do, where they just kind of refine things, improve things that were wrong. For example, on the camera side of things, they finally made it so you can use the main sensor to take your portrait shots instead of having to use the telephoto lens that was like super cropped in. So yeah, it's a good phone. I'll probably get one at some point just for the sake of network testing purposes, but it won't become my daily driver. But I think it's a good phone. So Chris, which cell carrier do I have as my daily driver? So my main line is on T-Mobile. Even though they have the worst coverage in Pittsburgh, that's the one I have my main line on. That being said, I very frequently, I have an iPhone 13 Pro Max, which has dual SIM, and I very frequently will switch off to a secondary network for data connectivity. I've been using my Los Verizon line a lot because C-band's been pretty tremendous, and I've just really been enjoying testing out the Verizon network. It's really exciting seeing that UW icon pop up in different places, and also because Verizon just has really good call quality, really good call quality. which is huge. But my daily driver is T-Mobile. That's who my daily driver is. Big Term asks, will Verizon and AT&T deploy C-band in every single macro? I think they will. I think mid-band is the new low band. I think that they're definitely probably going to end up doing that at some point. It'll probably take years for that to happen, but I think that's the goal. Tino, thank you for the question. If I had to pick an MVNO service in my market, who would I recommend? So if you're looking to use T-Mobile, I would recommend Mint. As long as you don't mind doing like the Costco approach of buying like a year in advance, Mint's a great option. They have phenomenal customer support, a very nice app, and I really love the company as a whole. If you're looking for Verizon, I'd recommend US Mobile. Again, US Mobile has a great app, very reasonably priced plans, and they have support for most of the features that matter, including the fact that they do have support for C-band and millimeter wave. And then for AT&T, I mean, it's not technically an MVNO, but honestly, I would just go with Cricket. Like, if you're going to do AT&T, I would do Cricket or AT&T prepaid directly. I guess you could probably do Red Pocket, but I'd really just advise doing Cricket or just AT&T prepaid. Joel asks, any thoughts on when US Mobile will change its family plan back to unlimited, uncapped data and Wi-Fi calling on Verizon? I don't see unlimited, uncapped data coming back for a while because, they're paying for that data, and I'm sure they introduced it because of people just abusing it, essentially. So I don't see that coming back. As far as Wi-Fi calling goes, I'm sure that will come at some point. US Mobile, they kind of work on their own time, and I'm sure there's lots of complicated things on the back end to get those features to work. But I don't see why they wouldn't eventually inevitably support Wi-Fi calling. But I don't have a time frame or anything like that. Deba Pop, should I trade in my iPhone 12 Pro for an S22 Ultra? That is a very complex question. If you're really deep in the Apple ecosystem, I'd probably say no, because you're going to not be able to necessarily transfer, say, all your purchases over to Android. But if you're not, then for all intents and purposes, sure, it's a better phone. It's got a better screen, significantly improved wireless performance across the board, both on Wi-Fi with the fact that it supports Wi-Fi 6E and everything else with the 5G side of things. And yeah, it's a great phone. Honestly, I think the more logical option would probably be like an iPhone 13 or iPhone 14 whenever that comes out later this year. So totally up to you. Alex says Pixel 6 now has C-band access through Android 12 L beta on Verizon. Well, that is exciting. Hopefully everything works out and that becomes a finalized release for everyone out there to enjoy the sweet, sweet, glorious C-band, because it's definitely worth it. Glenn, once T-Mobile shuts down Sprint's 3G CDMA network and Verizon shuts theirs off, will there be any CDMA left in the U.S.? No, once those legacy networks are shut down, their 1X and their 3G, no. Everything will be GSM at that point. So that will be a good thing, because it'll make switching between the networks even that much easier, hopefully. As more phones eventually have support for all the bands, hopefully. Josh, my phone still does not show UW even when on C-band. It does when I am on millimeter wave. I am on my recent update on my S21. Verizon doesn't know why. Lol. Yeah, I'm not sure. If you're going into if you have the service mode unlocked and you're able to confirm that you're on C-band, that's odd. But I wouldn't let it worry you too much. Let's see. And no one, man, there really hasn't been a good AT&T MVNO for some reason. I wonder why that is. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna guess it has to do with working out the deal with them and maybe pricing. I'm not sure. Hard to say. Hey Chris, thanks for catching the stream. Breaking data: regional carriers are shutting down their CDMA this year as well, so I don't see CDMA in US next year. Yep. Tino, what's my favorite phone with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1? Well, what all phones are out there? I mean, I think Samsung's the only one at the moment that has one coming out, I believe, or at least to my knowledge. Is there other phones that I should be keeping in mind? Alex, I agree with this. I believe the iPhone 13 does do the best as far as performance goes on Verizon with C-band. Christopher, I'll have to let Stetson know about this. I've never heard of Zillatech, to be honest. T and M LeBlanc. Thanks so much for taking the time to write out this comment and watch the stream. In an area with 1 bar of service, occasionally 2 bars, suburban/rural, 2 miles from tower, if C-band's eventually deployed on the tower, will that help me get more bars and help with the speed? So it will not help you get more bars on your phone. Like, it's not going to necessarily improve your coverage. For your coverage to get better or your signal strength to get better, Verizon would have to just add more cell sites in your area. Hopefully the one that's either, basically closer to you. But what it may do, if you're able to connect, although I'm doubtful based off my testing, is it may give you more capacity, possibly. Right now, from what I've been seeing, C-band seems to want to peter out around a mile out, or I should say becomes kind of non-consequential after about a mile or so out from the site. So I wouldn't be too optimistic. But we'll have to wait and see, The world is interesting. Naz, is Red Pocket not a good AT&T MVNO? I wouldn't say that. It's just that if you want good plans on AT&T and don't want to go through AT&T directly, it's just that Cricket has so much better plans than most of the MVOs can offer. There's some more like rare, niche ones that are out there, but like you're better off just going with like Cricket, honestly, or AT&T prepaid. I mean that sincerely. Perfect. Guys, we are recruiting the Bearded Dragon. He's going to be coming on this show. He's one of the most awesome people I could ask for, who is very well adept when it comes to his technical prowess. Give me 2 seconds, Pete. I'm going to get you that invite here. All right. Glenn, modern, I don't know if carriers will be able to eliminate all that tech because there's still other places in the world where it's utilized. What's up, Pete?
Not much. Earlier today, I uploaded our 45-minute conversation from yesterday.
I saw that.
And hopefully the Best Phone Plans podcast was done correctly in the title.
I did see that, and I'll have to tell people if they enjoy watching this and they want to watch more before waiting for the upload tomorrow, you should check out Pete's channel. He commented, if you click on his name, he was doing a little stream where he was playing Zelda, and I kind of popped in and we talked about security vulnerabilities. It was pretty fun.
I did a standalone video for the talking, and in the description I included all the links that we were referring to.
There you go. So, Pete, I'm glad you can make it on. Let me give you a quick little recap of what I was talking about with Stetson and what the theme of the show was. Basically, we were talking about the state of 5G networks in the U.S. at the moment, talking about my 300 miles covered within Pittsburgh, talking about the Root Metrics report, and just kind of talking about the state of affairs. Now, Pete, I know that you have really in-depth technical knowledge on all things. You understand the nitty-gritty. I first want to start off by posing the question of, do you think 5G is finally like real? Do you think it's finally worthwhile across the board to upgrade to a 5G phone?
Yeah. As long as you're not on AT&T.
As long as you're not on AT&T, okay.
If you're in a market with Verizon C-band, you're good. And T-Mobile, it's hit or miss regarding how much AWS they have deployed on for the 4G. But in general, even 10 megahertz of 71 sometimes seems to outperform carrier aggregated 4G for some reason.
Let me ask you another question because this was asked earlier on the show, and I'd love to have your insight. Do you think the new X65 modem is going to make a meaningful difference in network performance for users compared to last year's X60 chipset?
Well, that's coming out in the new Samsung phones, no?
Correct.
So people will not find an immediate increase when purchasing something with that modem because the modems come at, get released ahead of the network technology that the carriers deploy. If you have the money and you want to, join the early release crew, you'll most likely find 10% increase from what you're currently looking at. But give it 6 months and you may find even more. It's a good modem, but yeah, early adopter with modem, the network technology lags behind the modem released.
Gotcha.
And this is in general with most modems, at least with my experience on T-Mobile, where the Pixel 3 only had 3 carrier aggregation on LTE. And it took until I got the Pixel 5 to find situations where T-Mobile was actually doing 4 carrier ag. So, if you're on AT&T and you can do that 7 or 8 carrier ag on LTE, you're good.
I'm not aware of them doing that. The most I typically see from AT&T is 5.
Yeah, the most is 5. They have the potential for 7. So, it's about network and where the network is on deployment.
So we got a question in from Abdullah. I did not forget about you, my friend. He asked, do all carriers share backhaul and shared cell macro sites? Pete, I'm going to let you answer that question. Go ahead, man.
It depends on the site. There are some sites in your neck of the woods where the carriers do not deploy fiber, namely Verizon and AT&T. So they have an SLA with the backbone operator, service level agreement, for the amount of bandwidth that can transfer through their site at capacity. In that situation, technically they share backhauls, but they may have different agreements, different rates, and different guarantees.
I think
This also happens in Colorado. There are some shared sites with Verizon and T-Mobile, and they seem to be using Lumen Fiber.
I think the more accurate way to say this, and correct me if I say this wrong, is the carriers will have their own backhaul to their respective sectors. They will also have their own speed agreements. However, ultimately, when it gets time for all that data transmission to actually go back to the main transit from that SLA provider, that tier 1 provider, it's all going to be going through that same fiber run, ultimately. Yep. So yes and no. It's not really that they're sharing it per se. It's not like T-Mobile, or it's not like Verizon's paying for backhaul and T-Mobile gets access to that same backhaul. They have their own.
I mean, the fiber providers could be doing 100 gig backhaul to the tower as an agreement with the tower provider, and then the telcos then pay an agreement through the backhaul provider to get a percentage of the capacity they're offering the tower. By the way, Stefan Don, not AT&T, Verizon or T-Mobile are great in New York, New York.
Wait, you said not AT&T?
Yeah. I'm assuming by New York CO he's talking about county, which is often called, which used to be, in my opinion, used to be called Kings County, if I'm wrong, which is Manhattan and Queens.
Yeah, but you're saying AT&T's not good there? Because when I was down in, I went to New York.
Which access to AT&T were you using?
Postpaid, just consumer postpaid.
Which plan?
Well, when I was in Manhattan proper years ago, I was on an old value shared plan. I think it was 35 gigs shared data plan. Although when I was going on my way back from Vegas, I was staying at JFK there for the layover.
JFK doesn't count for New York, New York.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, they have a band. What is it? 48.
LAA you're referring to?
Yeah, LAA. Plastered all over the place. T-Mobile has gone ham with 71, 41, and some millimeter wave there already. So, Verizon is better in some neighborhoods and T-Mobile is better in others. In general, you will get slammed with congestion on AT&T.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's been years since I've been to Manhattan proper. But every time I've been to New York, or every time I remember New York, and I mean this sincerely.
Also,
all the carriers,
despite AT&T saying they have service in Grand Central Station,
good
luck using any data or phone there.
Well, all I was going to say was, at least when I was there, all the carriers, I mean this sincerely, all the carriers seem to literally perform identical, like pretty much.
Last time I was there, T-Mobile and Verizon were about the same, and I was not able to test AT&T.
As far as the airport goes, by the way, I will just say AT&T was.
By the way, Shaheem Fried vouches for me regarding NYC, Verizon, and T-Mobile. AT&T is not that great. Airports are different beasts.
Well, I will just say, if you're someone that's going into airports, and this is in regards to when I went out to Colorado and then Vegas, then back, AT&T worked exceptionally at every single airport.
Makes sense. They do have, carriers can set up small cells or macro cells within the terminals themselves.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm just saying that AT&T was the one. Like, Verizon are honestly performed the worst in the airports, with the exception of Vegas's airport, where Verizon actually had millimeter wave deployed.
Yeah, I was going to say they have millimeter wave in the terminals.
Right. At the actual gates, though, is what I was going to more specifically say.
Yeah.
Whereas in Pittsburgh, where they claim to have millimeter wave at the airport, they put it stupidly before you actually go into the airport. So at the TSA check-in.
And you can't be on the phone there, or they'll try and detonate it because they have no sense of humor and think it's a bomb.
That's not true. You can be on the phone on the line, but the point being is that like the benefit of having the millimeter wave there is non-existent.
Yeah. By the way, from what I've noticed in DC, Salam K-Acre, yeah, T-Mobile and Verizon are pretty darn solid there, and they actually put up some fiber, in-ground fiber, with the acquisition of Layer 3 TV in DC. So they're running on native backhaul for the most part in DC.
Hey, so real quick, this is a little off topic. I know you're more of an Android guy, but I feel like it'll still be fun to get your perspective. What are your expectations for the iPhone this year?
Is this an S year or did they drop the?
They kind of dropped that name nomenclature, no naming scheme.
So it's going to be in my opinion, the iPhones are 2 year phones.
What do you mean by that?
So if you got an iPhone last year, you'll only see marginal improvements with the iPhone this year. Also, it takes about a year for one iOS revision for iPhone to hit its stride. So if you, well, not one, but like point 0.3. But if you get an iPhone last year, it already, like the 13, it already covers N77 and all that good stuff. So the only real perk would be if you want that new camera they're trying to upsell you on.
Well, how about the whole debacle that's going on with specifically with AT&T and their C-band / Andromeda spectrum? If I remember hearing correctly, there
Yeah, but
was
that won't be deployed until later. So you could get the new iPhone, and you could expect the Andromeda spectrum to be deployed a few months after that. At which point you might be able to pick up a review, and swap it cheaper.
yeah. I mean, I'll just say this: every phone to me is relatively speaking, been iterative. It seems
Yeah,
like this past couple
which
of
is
years.
why I'm like you kind of want to just go every other year.
That being said, though, Pete, the improvement.
Although the Pixel 6 Pro, I did have a reason to get it over the 5.
Well, I was going to say that being said, though, Pete, the improvement from the 12 Pro Max to the 13 Pro Max for me was actually rather significant, specifically because of the significantly better battery life, the fact that the 13 Pro had support for dual eSIM, and then also the fact that it had the first high refresh rate screen on an iPhone were big selling points for me.
If you're into high refresh rate, dual eSIM's nice. Dual eSIM standby.
Listen, I no longer have to carry multiple phones on me. The fact that I can carry this one phone and have access to all of the best networks consistently without having to pop out SIM cards is absolutely legendary.
Hey, I like popping out SIM cards.
What is that?
SIM card in my case.
Oh, got you.
Actually, that's a defunct Los Mobile Blue.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Um,
Did Carlos message you behind the scenes in regards to something else and on that aspect?
I'm gonna have to call him tomorrow. It sounds like.
I recommend that. Anyway, have you been using the low spread at all? By the way,
Yeah,
how are your thoughts on that?
he's got a good deal on the hotspot.
Did you hear? Were you in the spaces when Carlos was talking about what's happening with the hotspot?
Nope.
I don't know if it's confirmed yet, but I know it's in the works. He's in the works of getting unlimited hotspot as an option.
Oh, that'd be nice. Now, if we're now if where I went and busted out, my T-Mobile and Verizon phones, the Verizon phone wasn't latching to N5, where T-Mobile was doing N70, N41.
Hey, I just want to show something, by the way. I told you now that I'm able to reliably connect to N41 at my house. Yeah?
Yeah.
Look at that N41 performance.
Hey, it's usable, but nothing to write home about.
Oh, it's definitely usable. And you
Yeah,
can see
but
you can see the UC icon, right?
yep.
Barely.
But yeah, it's usable, but nothing to write home about. I'm on N71 aggregated with 26 in my basement.
But you're right, it is usable. It's way better than it was before. You are right. I will not deny.
But it's
Um,
nothing to go, oh my god, this is great in your neck of the woods.
no, I mean 38. 38.
Hey, if you're on the if you're using the max on Los Mobile with that, you're still able to do 4K video.
I'm using this is my consumer magenta max line. I have one of the lowest magenta lines. Well, I don't have the phone beside me, but it's in the Android phone for the network testing because I don't want to blow up my personal line, and also I want to make sure I get the highest priority when I'm doing those tests. But anywho, Debobop wants us to talk more about the X65 modem. Debobop, if you can do a follow-up question on what you specifically like us to talk about, please do. I'm in the DMV, tested Verizon as.
What is DMV, by the way?
Does he mean the driver center? Like the drive, like.
I love me the Department of Motor Vehicle.
Maybe it's district of.
You mean the Washington Douglas Commonwealth area? Or yeah.
FM. So 50 down is perfect for most everyday things. You will not hear me disagree with you on that. My problem is, and this is two parts, T-Mobile is aggressively trying to sell their home internet to people like me out here, and that is not acceptable for a fixed wireless home internet product. And that's a shaky 50. That's a shaky 50.
Yep.
That's not a consistent 50. This is 8:54 in the afternoon on a what's today? Thursday?
I think it's Thursday.
Yeah. And that upload was rough. AT&T, just for perspective, gets like a good 200 consistently, easy.
So
no, Pete, I can confirm it's on N41. I have a Galaxy S20 Plus that I go into service mode to confirm.
I've noticed getting UC and a good 150 down on just N71. I just think that it shows up based on their density and whatever the heck they're labeling it.
Nah, N71, Pete, would not get that speed. I promise you right now. It's only 5 megahertz. N71, if you're connected to that by itself, I kid you not, is less than 10.
For 5, I have spots where it's 10 to 15.
No. I'm talking about my area. Like,
yeah. So 5, you're not getting it, but man, for some reason, going from 5 to 10 megahertz is a game changer on 71. Well, Pete, granted, 5 megahertz kicks the living day of N71 kicks the living daylights out of 12.
Unfortunately for you, Pete, out here, band 12 is faster than N71, and the reason for that is because T-Mobile phones will prefer to lock on to the N71, which leaves the band 12 being uncongested.
I see. Hey, big term, 30 to 50 for LTE is like the best that I've seen in Colorado, most places.
Actually, I was able to see over 100 on T-Mobile's LTE out in Colorado.
Granted, it's been, a year and a half since I've done extensive LTE testing.
That was something I did while I was in Colorado, Pete.
Yep.
Hey, Pete, I'm gonna step away real quick if you want to hold this down for a moment.
Okay. So I pulled up the spec sheet for the X65, And I'm reading it features 3GPP release 16 support. I'm going to want to try this modem because network slicing was introduced in 3GPP release 15, and I still see no options to enable it with Android 12. Stetson, you rock. So what you guys in chat are saying is band 12 has become better now that more people are on 5G spectrum. That's nice. I've encountered some locations with 5 megahertz of 12, nothing loaded, and my calls dropped despite having full service. Hmm. 5G panels. Is there a significant upgrade between what a mid-band panel looks like for LTE and 5G? No. So the only way you can distinguish is how long it's been since they put it up. So standalone is preferred by most phones, it seems. So it gets very congested around here on the fringes. From what I've heard places where I've been attempting to work, Verizon and AT&T are still in the early alpha phases of deploying standalone, and we should be expecting that by end of the year 2022.
I'm back, Pete.
Welcome back.
Stetson.
Xiaomi phones, Tito aid. They're okay for accessing low band and mid band on AT&T, but I do not recommend putting your SIM in them. Your mileage will be greater in Europe. For some reason, there is closer band compatibility with the European spectrum and the Chinese modems. Yes, big term. If the sites have not been touched for at least 5 years, you can guarantee they are LTE only. T-Mobile standalone is in late beta testing and is already deployed partially in some markets. I have found some great 700 down by 50 up on and 41 on standalone networks.
Hey, so Pete, I'm not sure if RFK is still watching, but as you know, he calls it fake standalone because that ultimately it ends up converting back into the LTE core.
Yes. If you want more, if you want me to do more detail on that, I'm going to plug the SMT Patreon because I did that in a thesis discussion there for the past 2 Sundays.
Drats. Where can people subscribe to the SMT Patreon?
Patreon.com/SneedMobileTech. He has shared videos for people who have super chatted over a certain threshold on the channel as well.
You know what's funny is, Pete, I'm gonna be honest, I've been subscribed to Sneed's Patreon now for I don't even know how long at this point. I wonder if it keeps track, but I really don't check the Patreon app, so anytime you do stuff like that, I don't know until I talk to you.
Well, occasionally we also throw it on the Patreon channel on the SMT Discord.
I don't check the Discord as well, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I honestly, Pete, do you wanna know what I do with Discord? Do you want to know the truth?
Send me links.
No, it just stays open in the background until Sunday rolls around when it's time for D&D sessions.
Makes sense. I mean, it's not my preferred communication media. I like making phone calls like an old man.
So do I, Pete.
So, Jared Cohen is wondering if T-Mobile standalone is coming to more areas nationwide. Yes, expect a larger rollout by end of the year, but I would not expect full penetration in all markets.
I also wouldn't hold your breath as far as what it will actually do because, and Pete, if you want to disagree with me on this, that's fine. But at least in my experience in testing, standalone carrier ag between N71 and N41 has actually overall provided worse throughput than NSA.
Well, the expectation with the carrier ag is more capacity over longer distance, not faster speeds and shorter distance. You're going to be looking for N41 ag with N41 for faster speeds over expected, or 10% less of a 41 distance.
Hey, but Pete, real quick, man, what is the actual peak throughput if T-Mobile does everything like they're supposed to, right? What can T-Mobile actually get with 100 megahertz N41 carrier aggregate with band 66? That seems to be the common combination.
I'd be surprised if maximum wasn't just shy of 800.
I thought it could get over a gig.
In ideal conditions, I'm talking amortized conditions.
Yeah, I'm talking like, well, look, the reason why I'm putting it that way, let me phrase this another way because we talked about this earlier because someone asked who had better 5G, Verizon or T-Mobile, but
depends on market.
Right, but that's the reason why I'm setting it up like this. So, T-Mobile executing everything proper, 100 megahertz and 20 megahertz of band 66, right? Verizon, 60 megahertz of C-band, and then they're typically carrier aggregating that with band 66 and band 5. Like, what are the peak speeds? Because, like, Verizon, I've been seeing average of 500 as high as 600 by, like, 100. T-Mobile, the highest I've seen from them to date is 800 by 100.
Man, the highest I've seen 750 by 75.
My point is, though, is that why is T-Mobile only getting barely better speeds than what Verizon's doing with almost double the spectrum deployed?
TDD sucks.
Well, alternate reality.
I mean, FDD does an amazing job. If you've seen the what AT&T has been able to do with aggregating 66, the TDD requires, which is what N41 is on, and will be on until. No, said I can't share that. But when N41 goes over to FDD, T-Mobile can increase the broadcast power, and we'll see better throughput.
Well, on a side note, alternate reality, thank you for the comment and for watching. I remember you from Pete's channel. He asked what's going on with the Sony phones. He could get 5G on Verizon and T-Mobile, but not on AT&T.
AT&T needs special firmware. I mean, up until recently, unlocked phones had hard time getting voice over LTE on AT&T lines.
I remember that with the Nexus 6 specifically. With X6P as well.
I do not, by the way, Jarko, and I do not think Best Buy has an S22 demo yet.
Hey, Pete, let me ask you something else, by the way. This is way off topic from where we started, but did you see that out in New York, Verizon went live with 2 gig?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, Verizon lit up New York City with their 2 gig symmetrical service. And with it,
they're beating Pilot by a gig.
And with it, though, this is the thing that's more exciting. They came out with a new gateway router. The router has 10 gigabit WAN, one 10 gigabit WAN port, one 10 gig LAN port, and 3 2.5 gig Ethernet ports.
You shared that user manual with me, and that's in the description for my video.
I did, and I totally forgot about this. Then you should have known about the 2 gigs. I would have told you about that.
I knew about the 2 gigs, but you didn't tell me New York, New York.
Well, yes. So we already covered that then. Never mind.
By the way, this is a belated thank you, Alternative Reality. Thank you for sending me a tip.
Hey, so Pete, you got any plans to make any? I know you just got done with a nice trip to Vegas. But you got any plans for any future trips?
Um, Step one is see what I can do for a full time job. Um, Doing ad hoc work is what I've been doing for the past 6 years, and now that I have a master's and things are more remote friendly, I'm trying to do that. So, but yeah, any trips wouldn't be until mid spring, because any other direction I'd go, I'd be taking the north route, and I like to avoid snowstorms.
Because I was gonna see if you might be able to make your way out to Pittsburgh, so I could show you my local breweries that you showed me out in
Yep.
Colorado.
So you're gonna have to wait till sometime in spring and see what's going on then, because didn't you recently get dumped on in snow?
Yes, I went a whole 24 hours without electricity. It was
Yeah.
fantastic, and we're getting even more snow now over the next coming days.
And didn't you say yesterday that you were shocked that T-Mobile didn't disappear during that outage?
I was. I also mentioned that on here as well. I was proud of them for finally adding backup power.
Yeah, that's actually something to commend them for.
It is, and it's not even us
Incremental
being.
improvements.
It's not even us being funny. I mean this sincerely. Sincerely, if we want to talk reliability, having backup power on your cell sites is one of the most important things any carrier can do. And any carrier that's not doing that deserves to be rightfully shamed.
Yep. Nevada dropped all mass.
Yeah, I ignored that.
Today.
We're ignoring that.
Am I free to share my opinion on those?
I don't want to talk about the mask on this channel.
Okay, I'm not going to. Read private chat.
Yes, that is a good thing, but we will keep that in our private thoughts.
Yep.
Well, I'm really happy with how long the stream has been going on.
I'm actually wondering what happened to Stetson. He seemed to have not been dead because he popped in, but
yeah, I'm not sure. He just had a bounce.
Yeah. Dennis here pried me away from debating a nap while watching Doctor Who.
Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on the fly. I just wanted to keep rocking and rolling because we had so many people. I think we've talked about everything that I can think of, and it seems like the comments are petering out. Yeah. Well, guys, I want to thank everyone that came out to watch the show. As always, if you're not done so already, please make sure you're subscribing. There's actually about 60% of you out in the audience that is not currently subscribed. And,
I think I'm subscribed. Let's see.
And that's a real shame.
Yep, I'm subscribed. I just didn't like it yet.
There we go. So yeah, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. It means a lot. If you're not already, I highly encourage becoming a member of the Patreon. There's a lot of extra content behind the scenes that Stetson and I put up. From funny things like blooper reels to things when I did my trip on the side that wasn't necessarily meant primarily for the channel, to being able to hang out with us on private streams or Discord conversations. So definitely recommend becoming a member of that Patreon. Of course, as well, Pete, make sure to check out his channel. He's actually started a channel now. He is a person that is so incredibly intelligent when it comes to all things security. I know a lot of you guys out there are very security minded like myself, and he'll do streams where he'll be playing classic retro games and
Switch games.
I'll
play anything. It's just there, to make it seem more interesting than just looking at me.
Yeah. So yeah, he does. He'll do like live streams where he'll play games in general, and he'll talk about security topics as well as anything else he feels like talking about. He's just an awesome guy.
Yep. And if it's an interesting topic and I remember to do so, I will cut it out of the stream and post a standalone video.
And of course, stay tuned for tomorrow. Stetson and I did a very short, action-packed, roughly 20-minute or so video talking about the S22. I know a lot of you guys were having comments. I think you guys will really enjoy it. We talk about some of the best ways to actually get the phone, some of the best deals on the phone from what we were able to find. So stay tuned for that tomorrow, and make sure you have your bell notification turned on so you get the notification when it goes up. But Pete, before I end the stream, do you have anything else you want to share with the audience?
You're sideswiping me yesterday with, so what's the topic, is going to make it so at least 2 streams a week I'm going to be pulling up a cybersecurity paper and talking about it and determining if I want to submit peer review.
All right. Well, see you, everyone. Peace.
Peace.